Welcome to Nick and Dave Deep Dive the Metaverse, a podcast exploring cult classics, subculture, and geek media. I'm Nick.
And I'm Dave.
And we will be your tour guides for this deep dive of Denis Villeneuve's 2017 Hard-boiled Tech-Noir Thriller Sequel, Blade Runner 2049.
It's hard to believe it's already been 5 years since this came out, because I remember seeing this in the theater. It was hella good. Actually, no, I saw it on HBO, I think.
I don't know.
Maybe both.
I saw it. I saw it in the theater in the original run, and I saw it at the Cinerama in Seattle, which is they're kind of mid-century theaters.
Okay. From
the epic Panavision Cinerama, the epic widescreen era. So they're really big screens, like the kind the modern Cineplexes don't have.
Okay.
And that's like the perfect way to see this movie because it's a big movie.
Yeah, this movie's huge, and there's so many landscapes and just really big panning photography moments, and so I can see that being really, really important. Man, this movie was one that I was really looking forward to. This is the last one in our Cyberpunk series.
Yeah, which I was very happy that it ended up that way, because we didn't quite start with Blade Runner because we got Escape from New York in there, but more or less the Blade Runner movies bookend the series, and I think that's appropriate.
They do. They really. It's funny how we've been deep diving this genre or subgenre of science fiction, I guess. And I see cyberpunk everywhere now. I'm like, oh, that's cyberpunk. That's cyberpunk. Like, it's become a mainstay of science fiction in general.
It has, to the point where it's almost like it seems passé to some people, I think. But then still, I opened Twitter this morning, as I generally do, and look at what's trending. Blade Runner was literally trending this morning.
Oh, wow.
So it's like that. Do you think Blade Runner is an eternal thing in cinema.
Oh, yeah. It's amazing. And I mean, do you think it was about anything about the Blade Runner 2099 that has been greenlit by Amazon? Is that what they're talking about?
No. It was about which that's not. It's like 55, I think. Whatever the new series.
I mean, I just did some Googling and looking around, and it looked like the Amazon one is 50 years after this movie, so it should be 2099.
Oh, 2099. Yeah.
And so
I misheard you.
Yeah, and so it's like 80 years after the original movie, and Denis Villeneuve is not involved in this one, but we have some Ridley Scott involvement
as a producer.
So, should be cool.
That was none of the tweets I saw. I saw tweets about this movie, about the original one, just regular film Twitter. Movie geek posts.
Yeah, as I've kind of leaned into some niche Twitter spheres like disc golf, movies, podcasts, stuff like that, I really find myself kind of insulated against the shitstorm that is Twitter. Like, people are like, Twitter's terrible. It's like, I don't know, dude. Every disc golfer I know and like all these cool movie stars that I follow, they tweet about cool stuff.
My feed's not bad. I have to kind of go out and seek things that irritate me on Twitter.
You know what's the number one?
It's doable, but I don't have to.
You know what the number one move is if you want to make your Twitter way better is mute Elon Musk. Because then you won't see any of the replies to him or retweets arguing against his tweets and stuff, and it just makes life a lot better.
I can see that. Yeah, I can see that. I was going to say, when we were talking about seeing this movie in the theater, this is probably I can't think of a single more divisive movie I saw in the theater.
Really?
Yeah, where like the buzz in the audience afterwards was very divided. That was great, or that was terrible, and people had strong opinions one way or the other.
I remember seeing it, and I believe I saw it with Carrie, and we both liked it right off the bat.
Yeah,
I walked out thinking, "Wow, I have a lot to think about."
Yeah, it's a thinker. Yeah, some people don't like thinking, and some people don't like.
Those people are on TikTok right now. They don't listen to 3-hour podcasts.
Yeah, maybe.
No hate to you TikTokers out there.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what people expect out of a movie like this. I'm glad movies like this exist. I wish more people saw them so more of them got made, because this was considered financially a failure for Warner Brothers.
Which is insane because, I mean, it made like $100 million, which isn't...
It needed to make 4.
Yeah, it's kind of ridiculous when $100 million in profit isn't sufficient. I mean, come on, that's profit. That's a lot of money.
I know, but it's not for a big studio.
They want a certain return.
Yeah, they don't consider that a good return on investment.
They want 4 times the investment back or something like that.
Something like that. Yeah, this movie needed, for Warner Brothers to consider it a success, needed to make for Billy, and it's like. I mean, you just can't. Or 400 million. That's what I meant to say. But yeah,
I don't like that, because this movie was absolutely art. And then you see, like, I don't know, how many remakes of garbage movies do we need, and how many kids movies do we need that are just a live action version of a cartoon or whatever. It's like, come on, give us good movies. Don't give us that just complete dreck.
Yeah, and it's weird. Like, sometimes those movies are good, like for what they are, like, but like I was talking about with the Metallica song last episode, and I'll say I've come around on that completely. Okay. I'm no longer cynical about it, but the thing that makes me cynical about it is things like a Ghostbusters Afterlife, which is a perfectly fine movie that doesn't need to exist. It's just a nostalgia machine. It doesn't have anything new to say.
Sure.
It's just we could still make Ghostbusters movies. And this movie avoided that. It actually adds to it asks new questions, and it adds to the mythos, but that's challenging to the audience. The audience wants to see, Harrison Ford and Ryan Gosling running around shooting robots or whatever it wants. That would have made $400 million.
Probably if this had been an action movie and not a neo-noir science fiction thriller, then it probably would have made money. People don't want thrillers anymore. Yeah. Which, I mean, the first Blade Runner was slower than this.
Oh yeah, this is a much more modernly paced movie, and it's still plotting. Yeah, but it just feels more brisk than Ridley Scott's Blade Runner.
I mean, the thing is both of the movies are slow paced with lots of room to breathe, and lots of room to just kind of stop and take in a scene, and the set design and the costumes, they linger a lot on these things, and I think that's a strength. But neither movie is trying to be like a heart-pounding thriller.
They're not action movies.
Yeah, they're trying to make you think, and they're trying to immerse you, and neither of them were boring at any point. I never was like, well, when's this going to be over?
Yeah. No, I think the original Blade Runner gets boring.
Do you?
I do. I think it's a little too plotting at times. Okay. And I think this one avoids it. I find it easier to stay engaged with this. And I think actually it's because I find Kay a more sympathetic protagonist than Deckard.
Yeah. One thing I like about Deckard in this one is they don't answer whether he's definitively a replicant or not in this movie.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah, they don't answer it. I was listening to an interview with Denis Villeneuve today where he is talking about how, because Ridley Scott and Harrison Ford have such radically different takes on whether he is or not, he wanted to leave that still ambiguous. And
that's important.
Yeah.
I think that really makes it more interesting.
Yeah, and that's something I like. That's something like I feel like The Last Jedi does also. It's like some things don't matter. Some of the things that geeks want to like pick over and say this is this means this and blah blah blah, it actually doesn't matter to the filmmaker or to the story that's being told in the new movie. And I like that kind of don't worry about that, we're talking about this, when filmmakers have that confidence.
And I like that when it lets you think about the film in two different ways. Like, if he's a replicant, then I think blah, blah, blah. If he's not, I think maybe this and that.
Yeah.
it makes it more interesting for the viewer, and it lets the filmmaker toy with that concept a little more.
Yeah. And it's like, that's what makes these movies that, well, after, their original runs, people are still talking about them on Twitter, like enough that it gets trending on a day.
And I think this movie is definitely worth talking about. I probably should see it again with new eyes. I really, really like. I really just kind of felt myself like mesmerized by the scenery in the movie.
That's so gorgeous.
So I think that's really cool. I went and did some additional diving on YouTube stuff about the props and the costumes and all the stuff, and so this one's got a lot to chew on. But let's go ahead and get moving and roll for initiative.
Okay.
I got a 3.
I got a 2, so you just sneaked out a win.
Holy crap. I thought that was done. Okay, so the Game Awards 2022 just happened.
That's a bunch of my stuff, too.
Oh, man. Well, I'm not doing any awards. I'm only doing previews.
Okay.
So I have a few that I called out that I think are interesting.
Okay.
There was a bunch that were super hyped that I was like, nah, pass.
Okay.
So the ones I was interested in was Dune Awakening, the MMO from Funcom. And they are it's a survival open world sandbox MMO. And it looks hella cool. It's going to be available cross-platform, PC, PlayStation 5, Xbox, etc. It just looks cool. I've played a lot of MMOs. It looks like a lot of fun. I could definitely see myself being a casual as long as it doesn't have a subscription fee.
Okay.
Then I probably wouldn't. Next up, I thought there's a game coming out called Hellboy Web of Weird.
That looked really cool.
Yeah, it looks super cool. It's cel-shaded 3D style. It looks like a comic book.
It looks just like Mike Mignola's illustrations animated.
It's super rad. It's like an adventure fighter, which isn't my style of game. I figure it's something you would like. But I just thought it was so striking on the screen that it was worth bringing up. There's one called Crime Boss, Rockay City. It's an open world crime game that's with an all-star celebrity cast, and it looks kind of like a cooler, updated open world Grand Theft Auto. It just looks super rad. I want to wait till that comes out, watch some reviews, and then maybe give it a shot.
Okay.
And then last up, there's a game called called Star Wars Jedi Survivor. It's a follow-up to Fallen Order. So I didn't play Fallen Order, and I never play any of these Star Wars games, but I always think I should play that.
Yeah, I hear nothing but good stuff about that series. They're in canon and expanding the mythology of that time period, and the games look awesome.
Yeah, I really should give that a shot.
Yeah.
Just crank it down to easy because I'm old, and just
I don't think you
need
to do that.
Play it for the story.
Yeah.
So those are the upcoming games for the new year that I'm looking forward to.
I cannot believe that you didn't mention Street Fighter 6, the preview that they showed, and that it is now available for pre-order. That's coming out on June 6th. Available for pre-order now, and if you pre-order it, you get special costumes for a bunch of the characters.
I will say, like, we have roots in fighting games and stuff like that, but I haven't played in a decade.
I love Street Fighter. That's my heart right there. Is that series?
Yeah.
So
Street Fighter and Tekken, I love both of those.
They had a preview for Tekken too, which also
nice.
looked awesome, but they didn't have a release date on Tekken. The other thing was the preview for Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League, which is coming out on May 26th. And they revealed in that trailer that this is the last performance of Kevin Conroy as Batman.
Oh, yeah, I saw that actually. And yeah, I was wondering if you'd bring that up.
Yeah, I love those Rockstar Arkham games, which this is... just recently, there was a game, Gotham Knights, that came out that got really bad reviews. It's from Rockstar, but not from the people that did the Arkham series.
Yeah.
This is what the Arkham developers were working on.
Oh, okay.
Is this Suicide Squad game where it's like you're playing as the Suicide Squad and the Justice League is being mind controlled, and you go through and kill all the superheroes.
That sounds fun.
Yeah, it looks like a really fun game. I imagine because I like those games. You don't like the rhythm style combat.
I don't like the combat at all.
Yeah, so it's probably not a game for you, but you can come over and watch me play it like we used to do with the Arkham games.
Yeah, that's true. Just kind of chill there and you're doing some shit. All right, so is that it? My turn?
Yeah, your turn.
All right, this is a shorty, and I just wanted to point it out because this podcast is officially enthusiasts for everything Dune, and Dune 2 officially wrapped. Timothy Chalamet tweeted about it and wrapped, and this was like yesterday. So the current release date for it is November 17th of 2023. That's been pushed back since October. It's going to be exclusive to theaters, no streaming, because that's Denis' favorite thing. And for me,
that's what led to, we talked about last episode, Legendary pulling out of Warner Brothers and going over to Sony.
Yeah,
was because they released all those movies on HBO, and Legendary's like, no theatrical, no Legendary.
That's lame because I like HBO releases. I do not like theatrical releases, but I will go see this, of course. I'm most excited for Christopher Walken as Emperor Shaddam IV. That's for me. That's going to be like amazing.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to this, especially even now after watching this movie has got me re-energized on Denis Villeneuve.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, we were in the bag from the start on that.
Easily. I mean, we both loved the last one, and pretty much everything that I've watched from this guy has been pretty much gold. All right, so what do we got for podcast? Oh, you got one more.
I got one more.
Podcast fuel.
Yeah. Lewis County, Washington. A moose was sighted for the first time.
Oh, that's cool.
In Mount Rainier National Park. That's the first time a moose has been photographed in Southwest Washington. I think that's stretching the boundary of Southwest Washington. Like, really, if you divide it into four blocks, he came into the Southwest block. But this is the first time that's happened. The moose is believed to have made advantage of the I-90 wildlife undercrossings near Resort Creek.
Oh, cool.
And he came down southwest of Snoqualmie Pass. There was another moose reported in that area in September. It's probably actually the same moose.
Sure.
But those wildlife underpasses work. Like,
yeah, they really should just build more of those.
Yeah, they're expensive, but I mean, it's driving through like Eastern Oregon. You go through long stretches where you don't see any roadkill for the longest time, and then you cross over into Idaho where they don't make any considerations towards animals, and it's just like carniceria all over the freeway.
Yeah.
So those work, and it's just really cool. Animals are out there thriving despite all the challenges in the world.
Yeah, I'm down. I like moose, and I'm glad that we have them in Washington. So now let's get into our podcast.
Yeah. So today's podcast fuel is Journey to the Red Planet. The off-world colonies are a big deal in the Blade Runner series. That's why I chose that.
Spaceman on the front.
Yeah, and it's a red ale, 6% ABV. On the can it says red ale of the finest quality, original, imaginative, and disturbing, and that's credited to you in Tapped as the quote. This won bronze in category at the Oregon Beard Awards, and it's just, a good Irish red ale.
Yeah, it's nice and full. Like, this isn't thin by any means. When I took a drink of it, I was like, "Whoa, what's this?"
Yeah, it's got a thick kind of malty mouth. It's a good winter beer
for sure.
Sadly to report, Sasquatch is shutting down their commercial brewing operation. They're going to keep the Southwest Portland pub open, but they're not brewing any of their award-winning beers or ciders anymore.
Wow.
They're just going to be a pub, and they're if you're interested, you can buy beer online. They're selling through all their inventory, and they still have new beers coming out because they had full fermenters when they decided to pull the plug. But once they're done, they're done. We're no more Sasquatch.
I wonder why. I guess just distribution wasn't profitable, but slinging hamburgers is.
I guess it's just good enough because basically, in their posts they're talking about the increased costs and how much the aluminum costs and everything, and they're just not making the margins they need even though they're a successful brewery, you know, winning awards and everything, they're not making the profit they need to make the business
paying
work.
people salaries and stuff.
Yeah, exactly. So R.I.P. Sasquatch. We'll enjoy these last few Sasquatch brews while we can.
Sounds good. So let's take a short break. We'll come back and get into this mammoth of a long movie.
Welcome back, divers. Let's dive into Blade Runner 2049, 2017, Denis Villeneuve.
So this movie opens up with some screen text.
Let's talk about the prequel shorts. You wanted me to bring those up.
That's true.
Because I sent you the link. There's 3 canonical prequel shorts.
Yeah.
One's an animated one directed by Shinichiro Watanabe, creator of Cowboy Bebop and Samurai Champloo. And then the other 2 are directed by Luke Scott, son of the great Ridley Scott.
Yeah.
And they all deal with key events in the history of the Blade Runner universe in between the original Blade Runner and this one.
Like in the movie, they reference the blackout several times, and it's the reason why all like records are wiped and all this stuff is weird. And so in one of the shorts, the animated one, it goes over like how did the blackout occur? Basically, replicants were they went totally rogue.
Yeah, they replicant radicals or revolutionaries or whatever blew up a server farm and detonated like a warhead in orbit and set off an EMP and basically just wiped all the records of all the replicants on Earth.
Yeah, so they could basically be off the map.
Yeah. And we find that I think this is the first time that their serial number is in their right eye is ever mentioned. And so people pop out their eye and then go incognito, basically.
Yeah, but I mean, come on, a bunch of people with missing right eyes.
If there's too many of them, it'd be like that would become a dead giveaway that you're a rogue replicant. Yeah, and then the second one.
Oh man, check this out. You pop out your left eye. No one would ever suspect.
You have to get them both. But they wouldn't suspect. Like only an idiot would have popped out both eyes.
It's a total juke.
Yeah. So that was Blade Runner 2036 Nexus Dawn. Excuse me. That was 2022 Blackout. Then was 2036 Nexus Dawn, starring Jared Leto and Benedict Wong.
Oh yeah,
and this is about the Wallace Corporation and the ending of prohibition on replicants.
Yeah.
And then the third one is 2048, and it's backstory on Dave Bautista's Sapper Morton character.
Yeah, I really liked these shorts, all of them. I mean, I think Jared Leto is amazing in this role as well.
Yeah, it's a very divisive performance. Like a lot of people say he's the worst part of the movie.
Holy shit! Who are these people? That is an amazing performance.
I actually agree with you. I think he's really strong in this. I think the fact that is probably in real life a creepy megalomaniac.
He's a creepster. So
yeah, it really lends to this performance. Like it feels very lived in.
Kind of like Dave Bautista is a good, genuine dude. So you really like his character and think of him as a good, genuine dude.
That's true. Like he's that sort of guy, like the quintessential man that's slow to angry or slow to anger, but he's capable of great violence.
Yeah, exactly.
Like he is a monster that wants to be like a good guy.
Yeah, he's definitely like the Bruce Banner. You wouldn't like.
Yeah, he's the Bruce Banner and the Hulk in the same body. Yeah, pretty much. So I had not actually watched these shorts before, but I watched them before rewatching the film, and they're not necessary, but they're all enriching to the movie.
Yeah, for sure. I didn't think like when I watched these, I was like, oh, these are cool, these are fun. And then when I was watching the movie, I was like, oh, okay, they're referencing a thing I know about now.
Yeah.
So that's cool, but I didn't think you needed them in any way.
No. They just deepen
and it was just like maybe 30 minutes worth of content, 35 minutes.
Yeah, maybe not even.
Yeah.
They're short. Yeah.
They're real short.
So, and they're on YouTube, so those are worth tracking down.
Yeah. So the screen text, it starts off, and it's just telling us what we already knew from the first movie, about replicants and the rebellion, and then it gets to some new content where it talks about Wallace Corporation buying up Tyrell, and basically how the Nexus 8s had longer lifespans than previous models, etc.
Which we kind of know that too, because like that's what Sean Young's character Rachel was a Nexus 8.
Yeah,
that's why she had an open-ended lifespan. Hypothetically, Deckard, if he is a replicant, he's a Nexus 8.
And I think it's worth mentioning, if you're deep diving this movie, that Ridley Scott says that he is a replicant.
Yeah.
So
I'm 100% on the he is a replicant train.
Yeah, he's a Nexus 8.
I like that Harrison Ford doesn't believe it, because that's where the headspace that he needs to be in to play the character the way he plays it.
Oh, that he's not a replicant.
Yeah, he plays it as though he's not a replicant, or he really believes he's not a replicant.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
I think that's how you got to play it.
Yeah,
because Deckard doesn't believe he's a replicant.
Harrison Ford, he's an interesting actor. He thinks of himself not as an artist but as a craftsman, because he has a carpentry background, and he says he builds his performance like the way he builds a piece of furniture.
Huh.
And I think it's a really interesting way to look at acting. And he's a pretty cool guy.
Yeah, I think that he's also, I mean, to say that Harrison Ford is an excellent performer is kind of of course, everyone thinks that. But
we're all aware of this.
I like it when he's in these more thinky roles. Indiana Jones, no thank you. Definitely give me
I'm not
Deckard.
going there with that. Like, I like Indiana Jones too.
Yeah, they're making another one of those flicks.
Look, have you watched the trailer?
No, I haven't.
It looks great.
I didn't watch the last Indiana Jones movie.
You're better off. Skip that one.
I'm 50-50 on that shit. I skip a lot of things, and people are like, good.
Yeah. Yeah. No, skip Crystal Skull. I actually, I find myself, not to do too much of a tangent on Indy, but I refer to the Indiana Jones movies as a trilogy, because there's the 3 that count.
Yeah.
And then in the weird period of Spielberg where he's nostalgic for himself, that's where you get Crystal Skull. And Crystal Skull was very bad.
There should be a term for being nostalgic for yourself. I mean, it's just sort of like masturbatory.
Yeah,
narcissism.
I was gonna go that way. I was gonna call it auto nostalgia.
That's good.
Auto nostalgic masturbation. That's what Spielberg's still in that mode. That's all his movies now.
Sad.
But okay, back to this.
We see this text scroll, and then we get a close up of an eyeball.
Yeah.
And then it kind of melds the scenery, and we see these big circular solar farms out in kind of a wasteland desert, and we learn that this is California 2049.
Yeah, we're flying, and and then we're going out over protein farms where they're farming grub worms.
And we have this really cool flying car. It's got 3 wheels, 2 in the front, 1 in the back. And you get to see these really rad landscapes. I mean, my notes are dotted with, this is a really cool landscape.
Yeah.
This is a cool panorama.
And part of why this stuff hits the way it does is because they're real models and not CG.
Yeah.
And your brain just knows a real thing when it sees it.
Yeah.
And so it feels like you're flying over a real landscape, as opposed to this is video game nonsense, which is what a lot of movies feel like.
Yeah, and that's the same way that they took the prop master approached this, where everything is as real as possible. Like, all of the guns are crafted from metal frames, and they have carbon fiber pieces casted in, and it's all attached in. Yeah. It's not mono piece with painted different colors. It's all separate things, so you can see the seam lines in them, and they have mechanisms, so when it goes, you actually see the minute moving parts. And even if you don't consciously notice the moving parts, your subconscious mind sees it and absorbs it. It's information that you edit out naturally.
Yeah.
But real when you see real.
Exactly. And this is the same technique that Villeneuve brings into Dune, right? With the
Yeah.
ornithopters and everything. They really plot out how these machines work so that they feel like a real thing when you see them operating.
Yeah.
Just a key little detail. Our protagonist, Kay, Ryan Gosling, he's asleep in the car.
Yes.
He's asleep metaphorically in the story at this point, right? Because
Yeah.
he doesn't know about the mystery he's about to get drawn
The
into.
sleeper has not awakened.
No, he has not yet.
Yeah, we get a thing, text that says in 2049, 30 years after the following the events of Blade Runner, bioengineered humans known as replicants are slaves.
Mm-hmm.
So we know from the short that Wallace broke the prohibition, but now they're just slaves.
He got it repealed because he created replicants that could be controlled and would not rebel.
Yes.
So yes, literally now they're nothing more than slaves and are not capable of anything more than slave labor.
Or so we think.
Or so we think. Yeah, until the sleeper awakens.
Yes. And so the flying car lands near this farming operation, and it cuts to a guy in the greenhouse wearing it's not really a greenhouse, it's a grub house. I don't know. He's wearing all this protective gear, like mop hazard gear or whatever, and he's farming these proteins. And it's just pretty gnarly.
That's our bleak future. Get used to eating grubs, people.
Heck yeah. I hope I'm dead by then. And then we see Kay, the name of the cop, it's, and he's going in. He's a Nexus 9, and he's going into this guy's house. And we learn that this guy, he's a Blade Runner. We're led to believe he's a replicant who hunts replicants to retire them.
Right. Which, I'm of the opinion that Blade Runners have always been replicants. That has always been the case. But Kay knows.
Yeah, there's no illusions about it.
Yeah, Kay knows he's a replicant. I think Deckard, as the earlier model, had to have the belief that he was not a replicant.
So you don't think there were other Blade Runners that weren't replicants, like the origami folding guy?
Gaff?
Or is he's not a Blade Runner, he's a minder or a tender?
Yeah, I think Gaff is not really a Blade Runner. Gaff is a handler, he maneuvers the Blade Runners around.
I love that they got Gaff back for this movie.
I know, Lisa goes, didn't he have jet black hair before? I was like, yeah, it's been a long time.
Yeah, that was the 80s.
Edward James Olmos is very old now. So anyways, Kay just goes in to Sapper's house, has a seat, and he just waits in there.
Yeah, and we have this drone that takes off from the car and is hovering around. And I'm not going to try to dwell on every single little detail like this, but this is the first appearance of the drone, and I think it's pretty dope looking. It's kind of scary-ish because it just hovers.
Yeah,
I like it,
and it responds to his voice commands, and he does hand signals. He just sort of he gives it a whirly with his finger, and it's kind of go around and take pictures of everything, because it's like a crime scene photographer he brings with him essentially.
Yeah, and I could definitely see this as in the future of policing. I mean, they have, and I was overseas with the military over a decade ago, and we had drones around our base where we could get eyes on things with our Predator drones and whatnot. So this is just going to happen. The military already has this.
Yeah. And so Sapper comes, he gets out of his protective gear, and he comes in, and they start out with a fairly civil conversation.
Yeah, they have a nice little verbal exchange, like, what do you farm? It's a protein farm.
Yeah, he slaps some grubs down on the table.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he seems like he empathizes with Sapper. He talks about his military service and how hard that likely was, because he's got his combat medic bag that he carries around with him.
Yeah, and that's a pretty common trope, how veterans often have little pieces of military gear that they just became familiar with and liked. I know I have lots of it around.
Yeah, they're like, oh, why wouldn't I just always carry this with me? It's got everything I need in it. If I ever get hurt, I can patch myself up. If someone needs help, I can help them.
Yeah, why not?
And it's in a nice little handy bag that just hangs easy here.
Yeah, and it makes me wonder, why is he why does he have to retire like Sapper? Sapper's just a farmer. Like,
yeah,
why?
Because
he could just let him farm.
Yeah, because they're
getting rid of all the eights.
All the eights. They're considered too. Well, for one, he is involved in like revolutionary stuff back in the day.
Sure, but there's no indication that Kay knows that.
I think he does. I think it's in the case file.
He's just sort of. It's implied that this is a bad guy.
Yeah. I mean, it's to him, it's not here nor there whether the guy's a bad guy. And he even says, like, he said, Sapper says to him, "Are you here to bring me in?" And he's like, "Sir, if bringing you in is an option, I would prefer that."
Yeah, and he says, "How does it feel killing your own kind?"
Yeah,
it's a great line. And I think I know I've said it before in previous episodes, but Dave Bautista is a hell of an actor.
Dave Bautista is a hell of an actor. I think he is probably John Cena's nipping at his heels now, but like as far as wrestlers turned actor, Bautista's top of the pyramid.
I mean, right after Macho Man Randy Savage.
I'll never forget his star turn as Bonesaw in Spider-Man. Or any of those great movies Hulk Hogan made.
Oh, man.
The one where he's an alien or where he's a nanny.
Man, I don't even remember those. But I definitely like John Cena in everything, honestly. Yeah. But Dave Bautista also. I think Dave Bautista is the one who does the most actually like acting. Like, he outacts The Rock easy.
The Rock just plays The Rock.
Yeah, he's just himself.
And I enjoy that, right? Like, I enjoy The Rock playing The Rock the same way Schwarzenegger played Schwarzenegger and everything.
Sure.
But Dave Bautista is interested in the craft of acting, and I don't think The Rock is. The Rock just wants to be a movie star.
Yeah, he's just rich.
I think John Cena discovered the craft of acting accidentally and was like, well, this is
through comedy.
Yeah, like, this is actually kind of more fulfilling than wrestling.
For sure.
And I can do it when I'm old, whereas I'll die if I continue wrestling.
Yeah, like Bautista's in his 50s. He he's not going to be able to be, he's the aging veteran in this movie.
Exactly.
So, and that was 5 years ago.
It's because he's normally has his head shaved. So like when his hair is grown out and you see like
he's bald, he's got the Captain Picard.
Yeah, the cul-de-sac going on. It's like he looks old with that hair. It ages him quite a bit.
Sure.
Anyways, taking him in is not an option.
Yep.
He pulls his scalpel out of his medical bag and they get into a real Donnybrook of a fight.
Yeah, a hell of a fight. It's really good.
Bautista like bashes Gosling through the wall, like pounds down the wall with his face, and then Ryan Gosling crushes his windpipe.
Yeah, it's like at first it just seems like, oh yeah, Sapper's gonna just destroy him, but then you see how the Model 9s are faster, stronger, tougher.
Yeah, they're no joke. But those Model 8s are no joke either, because he recovers from the crushed windpipe and gets back up. Like it's because Kay is like, oh, please don't get up. Like, Ryan Gosling is tremendous in this movie because he's absolutely miserable in his job.
Yeah.
He gets no fulfillment from being a replicant that hunts replicants.
Yeah.
It is a terrible existence, and he never seems like he likes it.
Nope.
It's all he's doing this reluctantly because he has to.
Yeah, I think Ryan Gosling doesn't really get enough credit for being an awesome actor.
He's great in everything he does.
Yeah, I mean, people just kind of, I think they write him off because he's really handsome.
Sometimes when you're handsome, and I suffer from this too. Sometimes some people diminish your capabilities.
Yeah, often people consider me a himbo.
Yeah, so he retires Sapper, and he takes his eye. He scans it with a little QR code reader and then pops it out, puts it in the evidence bag.
And it's like, photograph everything to the drone. And he calls into the department and he's talking to his lieutenant. And this is kind of the first time we get a side view of the car, like a full profile. And I'm always calling out the cars in every movie.
The cars look cool in this. I'll give you that.
Cool. Like, I want one of those cars. Like, I would drive that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he calls Lieutenant Joshi, the great Robin Wright.
I know. Like, I was like, Wonder Woman's mom?
Yeah,
like,
she's a hard ass in this, too. She's good. It's not her mom. It's her auntie. That's that's the general of the Amazons.
Yeah, that's that. Yeah. You know what I meant, though.
Yeah. I mean, she's the general of the Amazons in this, too. She's the badass.
Yeah, I really liked this casting. I was like, wow, this lady's hardcore.
Yeah, I'll say this, too. Another controversial opinion. Denis Villeneuve casts the hell out of a movie.
Yeah.
Even the minor characters are all people that, like, you're like, oh, I love this guy in everything.
Oh, like the Somali pirate?
Yeah,
like,
the Somali pirate, or
analyst.
the guy from the Walking Dead that runs the shady orphanage. It's like, there are lots of, like, smaller character actors, but great character actors in everything.
Yeah, he chooses really good people to play these roles.
So, anyways, while he's doing his debrief with the boss, he notices a little yellow flower at the base of this dead tree that's kind of held up by cables.
And I really like that imagery, just this dead tree held up by cables.
Yeah, that's the world.
Yeah.
You know, that's the world of 2049, where it's this dead planet that's just held together, like we're clinging to it.
Yeah.
And there's another thing, it's a yellow flower that makes him get out of the car. In the color story of the movie, things that are yellow are always leading Kay towards the truth, and then things that are red are blocking his path. And so the door into Sapper's house is yellow, the flower is yellow, Sapper has the red hazmat suit on. Like, there's just these little details like that mark clues and mark obstacles.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that I think is easy to call out just over and over again is the cinematography in this movie, how they use visual cues for storytelling. It's the essence of show, don't tell.
Yeah.
They do it a lot.
Roger Deakins won an Academy Award for his cinematography in this movie, and he'd been nominated many times in the past. But this is a masterpiece for cinematography.
Yeah, I think it goes without saying that the cinematography in this movie is probably one of its top features, like one of the best parts of it, because you're constantly blown away by the look and style.
Yeah. And so we're at real risk of making this a 3-hour podcast.
Yeah.
So anyways, let's
he flies back.
The drone scans something under the tree. Yes. And Robin Wright says she'll send a dig team. He needs to come back for his baseline, which we don't know what that is yet.
Yeah, so he goes back and he flies back. We get a really cool aerial cityscape view. This is our first view of a city. I won't call it out every single time, but this is our first one.
And it's a great model again.
This is as cyberpunk as a city gets. We have huge blocky monoliths, like brutalist architecture, but you also have like holographic advertisement everywhere. You have neon lights. You have a combination of extremely bright spots and extremely dark spots. It's just the contrast in this cityscape is extreme. I love it.
And it is the natural progression from the original Blade Runner's 2019.
Yes.
Not from our future. You know what I mean? Like, this is built on that world, not, 20 years in the future from our time now, like it would be.
Yeah, they used the original Blade Runner as like a history study, and then just tried to extrapolate from there, not from what we have. Like, again, in the costuming and stuff, nobody's walking around with cell phones or wristwatches or anything like that.
It's a fairly analog world, which, considering they had a major technological setback with the blackout, that kind of all tracks.
Sure.
So he goes in for his baseline, which is essentially like it's almost like the Winter Soldier protocol thing where they're saying words and he needs to repeat certain words back and he needs to stay cucumber cool through the whole thing.
Yeah, and he's like, nothing shakes him, and the evaluator even says so, like always call him K or whatever.
Yeah, and he has a rough time in the police station. Like, the other cops are shitty to him.
They like call him a skin job.
Yeah, skin job, and like kind of like jump at him and to make him flinch, and he walks around with it, like averting his eyes, like it's like the Jim Crow South.
Yeah.
And it's really tough. And he goes in there to talk to Lieutenant Joshi, and she's not great to him. Like, she's more friendly than other people, but she still treats him like a subhuman.
Well, she treats him like an appliance.
Yeah. Well, he just slightly more affectionate than an appliance.
Yeah.
A useful pet.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know, but I've seen people treat their cell phones with more regard than he is treated with.
Yeah. And it's really hard because Ryan Gosling has these great sad puppy eyes.
Yeah.
And he just looks miserable through the whole thing. Like, and I guess that, like I said, that's why I find him so much more engaging, is that, like, you just feel bad for him from the start.
Yeah.
Like, there's nothing, what were we talking about? Minority Report. There's nothing heroic going on in that movie. There's nothing heroic going on in this movie.
Not yet.
Him killing Dave Bautista was not heroic.
No, not
It
at
was
all.
sad. Mm-hmm. Everyone was sad about it. And he gets back, and his boss is shitty to him. He goes home to his terrible apartment block, and he's got racist graffiti on the door.
Fuck off, Skinner.
Yeah. And the one thing he has to look forward to is like a holographic chatbot that he has.
Yeah, so I wanted to talk a little bit about this.
Mm-hmm.
So I was thinking, like, okay, so at first I was like, oh, he's talking to a chatbot at first. And then she's holographic. He has a projector in the center of the room, and it has an arm, so it can kind of go to the different areas of the apartment.
Yeah.
She brings him a holographic meal, sets it on top of his meal. So I was thinking, because we later learned that this is made by Wallace as well, this bot. I don't actually think it's a bot in the way that we have chat bots right now. Like, you can hold a conversation with a chat bot, and it's hard to discern anything. And in Japan, there are services where you can pay a companion that will text you all day, and it's actually a person that's their job. But I definitely think this is something in the future that we will see. And I don't actually think that his companion is any less of an AI than he is, really.
I don't think she's as sophisticated an AI as he is.
But I do believe she is an AI. She
absolutely
has sentience.
Approaching. I think I think there's and I think he comes to that realization. She's a mirror.
Sure.
She tells him what he wants to hear, basically. What's interesting, as to kind of get into what we see later in the movie, she's supposed to be kind of a sex bot.
Sure.
But that's not how he uses her. He uses her as a companion because he's alone in the world, right? Because he's a replicant that hunts replicants. Humans hate him and replicants hate him. So this is really the only companionship he can get, is this hologram.
Yeah.
So he's made her into a life partner.
I wonder if hologram chatbots or whatever, or even non-holographic, or even if it was just like on a screen on your wall or something, if chatbots or unsophisticated AIs, however you want to think about it, I wonder if those are a thing of the future for like seniors who are really lonely. That kind of thing. Like, I could definitely see it being something that would be, I don't know if it's the best option, but certainly therapeutic for people who need mental stimulation. Like, they're going to talk to you and have discussions about things and ask you to tell them stories and things so that people's brains can stay active.
Yeah, no, I think there's a lot of utilities beyond porn.
I wouldn't mind having one of these as an assistant to me for my job.
Yeah. And I think you would get attached to it because it's going to learn things and develop a personality like she has.
Yeah. That'd be cool. I'd be fine with that.
I think I
don't hate machines.
I think that's cool. I think that is inevitable. I think that level of AI already exists, most likely.
It's probably just expensive as hell.
Yeah. And I think that this sort of thing is inevitable. And we haven't said Joy is played by Anna de Armas, and her performance is incredible too.
Yeah, I think she does a really good job at being realistic but slightly fake.
Yeah, and this is what the movie benefits from return viewings because she leads the story in a way that's not immediately apparent. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
She leads the narrative and she leads Kay that you in a way that you don't pick up the first time. It comes through much more clear the second time, where you see how she's telling him what he wants to hear.
Yeah, for sure.
And so, anyways, he's got her a present. That's the big thing
he
of this
used his
scene.
bonus from retiring Sapper to buy a mobile holographic unit.
Yeah, so she can leave the apartment now.
Yeah.
And she's they go up on the roof and they have a really sweet kind of romantic moment, and she's excited.
In the rain and
she's
everything.
she's excited for the rain, and she's just excited to leave the apartment that she's never been outside of.
Yeah,
and
like she can go with him, she can drive around with him and stuff.
And then the whole thing gets shut down because he gets a phone call, and she just pauses.
Yeah.
Oof.
Because it's like run from his cell phone.
Yeah. Hurts. Because he was like it was the first time you saw he was kind of coming out of his shell a little bit and approaching a happy moment.
Yeah.
And then it's immediately back to work.
Because he bought a gift for his AI, and it's like by having her pause when he gets a call from his boss, it just highlights that she's not real. She's just an AI, and basically he just bought himself a gift.
Yeah. So that he can have a more fulfilling relationship with the hologram.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, that's just, we do stuff like that. Just like when you buy skins for a video game character.
Sure.
You know, it's like, and you spend real money for fake clothes. That is a sort of thing that people do.
Yeah. That's fine.
Yeah.
And I'm totally okay with that kind of thing. And I would buy a AI assistant in a second. That'd be dope.
And a projector, so you could take her with you. And she ride your car, and then you can go in the carpool lane. Except for it looks like Ana de Armas. And so it's like, as the cops drive by, like, no, I have one of those too.
No, it's their hologram is pointing at you.
Yeah, it's like, and you're not carpooling. He's like, you got one in your car. That's just like, you can't text and drive, but they have that big laptop.
They have a laptop that they can write emails and drive.
Yeah, bonkers. Anyways, the forensics team discovered there was a human skeleton in that box. That's why he needs to go back to work. And it's a female. She died from complications during childbirth 30 years ago. And there's some superficial cuts that suggest there was a cesarean section.
Yeah, there's like cuts on some clean cuts that were probably incidental on the pelvis. And so it we have Kay looking at this, and he's got his replicant eyes and noticing detail, and he's like zoom in, like, look, move this there, and then he zooms in and he finds a serial number in the bone.
Yeah. How is that they've woven the serial number into the bones? Because it's like, it's on the internal, like you cut the bone and it's got the Nexus 8 serial number in there.
And then Joshi, whatever, she kind of freaks out.
Yeah. She takes him back to the office, and she gives him like a whole sort of speech about the world's built on a wall separating kind. Basically,
segregation.
Yeah. If anyone finds out that there isn't a wall, there's going to be a war or a slaughter.
Yeah.
And so she orders him to basically
find the kid and retire it.
Yeah. And anyone else that's involved in this thing. He's just supposed to whack anyone, discover the conspiracy and kill everyone involved.
Yeah. And he says that he's never retired anything with a soul.
Yeah. Because he's like,
and nothing that was born.
Yeah. Nothing that was born. She's like, what's the difference? Like, to be born is to have a soul, I guess. And like, it's his first sort of, and she says, are you saying no? And he says, I wasn't aware that was an option.
Yeah.
And so it's the first, he doesn't say, I can't say no. It's almost like it's that first chink that the idea of saying no is the first time it's ever come up.
Yeah, he wasn't aware it was an option before. Now he does.
Now he's like, what if I said no? Like, like his wheels are just starting to turn. And he, there was like some strands of hair, and so he takes the hair down to the Wallace Corporation to learn more about the serial number.
Yeah, and we get more badass cityscapes and advertising everywhere, and it's really cool. And then when you get into the Wallace Corporation, which is the successor to the defunct Tyrell Corporation, it's just this completely like unuser-friendly, brutalist architecture. It looks like Soviet bloc concrete buildings.
Denis Villeneuve says that the idea is that the Wallace Tower is a monument to Wallace. Okay. And it's meant to withstand anything. Even as the sea levels continue to rise and the city is flooded, the tower will still be standing there. And because Neander Wallace is blind, there's no windows because he doesn't care about looking outside. Yeah. And so the whole building is a monument to himself. And he doesn't care about user friendliness for anyone else.
Yes.
Which just tells you so much about the character, like who he is.
It's pretty striking. And the guy that they have playing the Wallace employee, God, what show was he on where he plays the arms dealer? Anyway,
oh, was that him? I know who you're talking.
I could have sworn it was him because it was hilarious. And
I know who you think that is,
but it's not.
It's not him. It is.
It looks like him.
It looks a lot like him because it's another alopecia dude. It's Thomas Lemarquis. Yeah, Thomas Lemarquis. Denis Villeneuve loves to bring the French Canadians in. No disrespect to our Quebecois listeners.
Just kidding. We live in Washington. They're our neighbors. So I think that this guy was really creepy, and I really liked it.
Yeah.
I like that. The guys immediately knows, oh, this hair's from a pre-blackout model.
Yeah.
Like he's like a nerd for
replicants.
Yeah.
And he takes him back to like the file lab or whatever, the card catalog, and pulls the file on Rachel.
And he kind of explains about the blackout during this walk, and he talks about why everything's stored on these data slates and stuff. And if you haven't watched the short, that's important information. Yeah.
And so when they started pulling up this particular file, we cut over to the replicant named Love, played by Sylvia Hooks. She gets an alert, and she cuts short her call with a client where she was taking like a big corporate order of replicants for a job, but this demands her attention, and she goes and takes over the what do you call it, the exchange with from the receptionist guy. She goes and pulls the file, and they go and they listen to an audio recording of Deckard giving Rachel the Voight-Kampff test from the original Blade Runner.
Which is kind of like the baseline test from this.
Yeah, it is. Sort of, yeah. It functions similarly, yeah.
Yeah, and basically she's just, she's, I don't know. It's like she's sizing him up and trying to figure out what he's all about.
Yeah, and she's cooperating, but only telling as much as she wants him to know, and kind of pointing him in the direction she wants him to go.
Yeah.
And he makes some interesting observations of the recording too. Like he says that he can tell from the recording that she likes him. She's like, she likes him. She's trying to provoke him. And then Love responds, that being asked personal questions is invigorating. It shows interest. And so it's like you've got these two replicants analyzing the other replicant and like their personalities and stuff.
Two replicants talking about two replicants talking.
Episode title. Maybe. We might come up with something better. So there's not a ton of information there, but that sets him on the path of finding out about Deckard, which is what takes him to the retirement home where Gaff is.
Yeah, we get to see Commander Adama, who's chilling out, and he's folding paper the whole time. He's making origami, which is a callback to Blade Runner.
Yeah, and he makes a little sheep.
Yeah,
The kind that androids dream about.
I thought this was a really cool scene. I'm really glad that they got the original actor, and he tells Kay that Deckard is retired.
Yeah,
he's done.
Which that has, that's a double entendre in a way that it could very well mean that he's dead.
Yeah, that's what you do when you retire a replicant.
Yeah, but basically, Gaff more or less let Deckard go at the end of the first movie, and he's not helping anyone look for him.
Yeah, he likes Deckard.
Yeah. Gaff ended up being okay.
Yeah, I thought he was kind of a jerk in the first movie, but that was before I fully understood that he was minding a machine, and that's why he was kind of callous.
Yeah, but then he
figured it out when we figured it out.
He also became sympathetic to the machine, because that's the whole thing.
AI chatbot.
It's in a way, right? Like it's about like Roger Ebert used to say about how films are an empathy generating machine.
Yes.
Over time, you develop empathy. Like you see that these are people, and you develop empathy for them.
Yeah, and then we cut over to Wallace himself, and he's examining a new model of a replicant.
Yeah.
And he's got cyber eyes in, and it seems like he's being fed images from these mobile cameras that fly around.
Yeah, so he has his blind eye, his human eyes are intact, but he's got like a Bluetooth thing on the back of his head.
Data jack or a chip jack or something like that.
And so he's got little drones that fly around the room. Yeah, it's very creepy. It gives you the sense that he's blind, but he sees more than is humanly possible because they're scanning everything.
And this scene is just kind of a creep out scene.
It's so gross.
Establishing this guy. This kind of reminds me of like a Baron Harkonnen scene where you're just kind of seeing him come out of the gnarly stuff.
That's a good comparison.
And so he's examining this replicant, and then he stabs her.
Yeah, because he's kind of just monologuing to Love, who seems very uncomfortable through the whole thing, right?
Yeah, she's not comfortable chilling with him because he's the big boss.
Yeah, and he takes this replicant. He kind of like sort of semi-comforts her and wraps a blanket around her or whatever, and then he starts talking about how he can't make them bear children, and then he slices her belly open, and she just falls and bleeds out there.
Yeah,
and it's very gross and uncomfortable and sad, and Love just stands there. She can't do anything about it. And how she feels about him is not ever entirely clear to me. Like she absolutely wants his approval, like
yes,
more than anything. But she also seems repulsed in this scene, to me anyway.
Yeah, and then Wallace tells her that he needs to go and steal Rachel's remains and follow Kay and get Rachel's child.
Yeah, because he wants replicants to be able to reproduce on their own in order to have because they can't, that way there's an unending supply.
Yeah, he wants to go from having made millions to producing trillions.
Yeah, because he's trying to populate unpopulated planets.
Yes.
He's got a real crazy god complex.
Yeah, definitely a god complex.
Yeah. And Rachel is the proof that replicants can do it, and he wants to know how to engineer that. We cut back over to Kay, and he's down in like the entertainment district or whatever, and we see a woman in a cloak go up to some replicant sex workers and ask them to find out what he's about. He killed Sapper, and we want to know what he's doing.
Yeah, I really like that there's umbrellas everywhere. It's always raining.
That's another good callback to the original.
And I thought it was cool that there was an advertisement about a Soviet Union ballet. And in Neuromancer, the USSR has also not fallen. I think it's a common thing from cyberpunk stuff that was done in the 80s or before, that the Soviet Union is assumed that it will stay together.
Yeah.
So that's pretty cool that they kept that. They didn't change it. So these three ladies walk over to Kay, and they're like kind of putting on the schmooze, and one of them is pretty quick, like, he's a Blade Runner.
Yeah, she recognizes him and doesn't want any part of that deal.
Yeah.
But Mariette, played by Mackenzie Davis, she kind of sticks around and talks to him for a little while.
Yeah, tries to butter him up.
Yeah, and it's just, he's not interested.
And she's like, "Oh, you don't like real girls."
Yeah, because
like, walks away.
His joy bling, it rings him, and his ringtone's the Peter and the Wolf song, and that's when she's like, "Oh yeah, you don't like real girls," and walks off. And so what's the phone call? He's got a call from there to go. Return to Sappers Farm.
Yeah, he has to go back to Sappers Farm, and basically he's like looking around, and he finds something in the piano.
A little baby sock.
And there's a baby sock. That's this little metal case. And then there's a picture where there's a lady standing next to the tree.
Yeah.
It's Rachel.
And he burns the house down. Destroys all that evidence.
He's gotta get rid of it. Sad times.
Yeah.
Why?
And as he's leaving, he thinks about the tree, because that was the one kind of clue Mariette gave him when he was talking to her, because he was looking at a picture of the tree, and she was saying it's weird to keep a dead tree.
Yeah.
And so he goes back and looks at it, and the tree has a date carved into it.
6/10/21.
Yeah, and he's upset when he sees that date.
Yeah, and because it's familiar to him.
Yeah.
So now, do you think this is June 10th, 2021, or is this October 6th, 2021?
We're in America, so I'm gonna assume it's our American numbering tradition.
Well, Denis Villeneuve,
he's Canadian, and French Canadian at that. So it could go either way. It ultimately doesn't matter.
It doesn't actually matter.
Yeah.
It's just that it's a familiar number.
Yeah. And so he goes back to report to Joshi, and she tells him about the, Coco, who was the forensic examiner, played by David Desmalchin. He was murdered, and the remains were stolen. And she's drinking his whiskey, and like she's obviously stressed out about the whole thing, and she asks him to tell her one of his implanted childhood memories.
And I like how she says, "This will break the world."
Yeah.
And I was looking this lady up, Robin Wright up, and I was like, I didn't realize she played in The Princess Bride.
That's Princess Buttercup, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I was like, oh, okay. That's why this face kind of, it's got my childhood recognition.
Yeah. For sure. And he tells this story about how when he was a little kid, he had a wooden horse, and there was this group of older boys chasing him, trying to take it away from him. And so he hid it in this furnace to protect it, and they beat him. But he never told them where.
He never revealed.
Yeah. And
she kind of hails him for being like stalwart.
And then she kind of like comes on to him. Like she makes a, are you interested in having sex with me kind of thing to him. And
I think it was a little more subtle than that.
Yeah. She goes, so, what happens when this bottle's empty? Because she's drinking his whiskey, and he's like, shouldn't you get back to work? And she's like, all right,
guess so.
Yep. And she leaves. And then Joy kind of comes online and is like, you didn't tell her the whole story. And he's like, I told her what she wanted to know. He's like, but you didn't tell her about the date. And we see the horse had that same date on it,
carved on the bottom.
That was on the tree.
Yeah. And so I think that's an interesting scene there, and it made me wonder, like, did Kay not notice that she was coming on to him, or did he not want to accept her advances because his holographic lady is there, or what? Like, or I don't know. or is he just she's the boss? I don't know.
I don't think he doesn't show any interest in anyone but Joy.
Yeah,
like I think he's 100% in on Joy, and is not interested in anyone else.
So in real life, if you knew somebody and they were totally, absolutely absorbed with their chatbot, like that was their relationship, you'd probably think they were like mentally ill.
Probably, but
if they themselves were an android,
if they themselves are a synthetic being, it's a little bit different. And the fact that he just is outside of society entirely.
Yeah, he
doesn't have a lot of options. I think. I'm glad he doesn't sleep with Joshi, because she does not have any respect for him as a human at all. And so I think ultimately that's the problem.
It would have been
like you said, an appliance,
where no consent could be possibly given, because
he can't say no to her.
He can't say no because of their power dynamic.
Right.
So that would be,
and he literally can't.
Yeah, because he's programmed to. But I was wondering, so do they have? Is it just that Kay is too poor to afford a skin job companion? Like, I'm sure other people have skin job companions.
The other replicants don't like him because he's a Blade Runner.
Oh, that's true.
He is a hunter of replicants, so he's just like despised. Do you think the other replicants would have a replicant companion? Yeah.
Or people would have a replicant?
I think the other replicants, like if you look at like the first movie, or even in this movie, you look at Sapper and how attached Sapper is to Rachel and to the other people he was involved with, like in the movement or whatever. They have a lot of camaraderie with each other.
Sure.
So he's just
a pariah.
Yeah, because he hunts his own kind.
Let's be real. He's garbage.
But not by choice. Like he has no choice in it.
He didn't have choice, and it sucks.
Yeah. I think he's developing choice though. Like
he's coming out of it.
This is another step. He's hiding things from
he's a Frankenstein's monster.
Yeah, he's becoming one. Yeah, he's a Pinocchio. He's becoming a real boy.
Oh, that's true. That's true.
So he turns her down, and he also hides things from her. So it's like he should
have got it over with and strangled her right there, like Frankenstein. Yeah. I want to see Ryan Gosling play Frankenstein, but just stay handsome.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah.
Okay. Anyway, I'm like the force for slowing everything down in this one.
So he goes to the DNA bank and starts going through He's going through June 10th, 2021, looking at birth records, and he puts Joy on the table so she can help him. And like they're both like, she overlays with him, and they're both looking at the microfiche while they're going through the birth records.
It's pretty interesting. There's such an analog technology still in use.
Yeah, because everything that was digital got wiped.
Yeah, so they figure, well, I guess we got to back things up in this old school way in case it happens again.
And so as they're flipping through there, he hits two birth records that are identical on the same date with the same DNA, but one's a boy and one's a girl, and they can't literally be the same person. So this is suspicious, and it leads him to an orphanage in the ruins of San Diego.
And as he's kind of flying that way, we get to see a new part of the city. We get to see the huge ocean wall that kind of reminds me of Pacific Rim.
Yeah.
And then as it gets out past that, because he's going to San Diego, so he's heading south from LA. Mm-hmm. It has such a Dune vibe to it, like, because it's all like grim and it's just dirty, and there's just broken everything.
Yeah, the whole space in between LA and San Diego, which is like a 2-hour drive or close to,
it's just a dump.
Is a garbage dump.
Yeah,
Oh,
I love it.
It's so horrible though. Like it's such a dystopia.
It's so post-apocalyptic, and you can just looking down at that, you just can imagine people living in there like Tusken Raiders.
Oh, and basically that is who lives down there because when they see a cop car flying over, they start shooting at it.
Yeah,
they're like, no cops out here. Like, good luck getting to San Diego, dog. And they start shooting at him, and he's sort of taken aback by it.
What?
And then like they crash his spinner. They hit him with like a little EMP and shut it down.
I like how they did that. They shot him with a spear that hits his car, and then it deploys a kite with metal spars, and there's a cable.
Yeah.
And it gets hit by lightning, and it fries his car's system,
Yeah.
and he goes down. It was like, wow, that's some Ben Franklin shit.
Yeah. Yeah, that's why no one goes to San Diego anymore. At least not that way.
Nope.
Yeah, and he crashes, and it gets pretty hairy for a second. Like
He starts taking fire from the trash towers, and
yeah, and they basically they go and saw him out of the car. And he gets out, and he's just
And Joy-
he's serving up.
Joy is trying to wake him up and
Yeah.
stuff, and then he starts fighting them, and he's kicking their asses.
But there's a lot of them.
Yeah, it's like a zombie thing. Like if they're fast zombies, you can kill a zombie 1-on-1, but can you kill 50 on one?
Right. Yeah, he's a regular baseline human is no match for a Nexus 9, but like
No.
can a whole junkyard community can maybe take him.
Especially with their crazy like MacGyver guns and stuff.
Right. But then they start getting like like low orbit missiles fired on them.
Yeah, like somebody called for fire. Like he's just getting like all of these like you said, missiles or something. To me, it felt like mortars.
Yeah.
Like mortar fire. I know when I was in the military, we had a forward observer with us at all times, and they can call for fire, and then you just get long range artillery, just boom, 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 wherever they call the coordinates in, and that's exactly what it felt like.
Yeah.
And then of course their shitbird call for fire ends up hitting too close and like knocks him too.
Yeah,
But he's a Nexus 9.
and we cut over. It's Love. She's like chilling on the couch.
She's
just-
getting a manicure.
Yeah, she's getting like a digital manicure while he's putting images on her fingernails, and she's like calling in the coordinates and shooting these guys, and then she zooms in on Kay, and she's like, "Come on, get up,"
Yeah.
and he looks up and he sees like the sort of blinking light of the satellite or whatever up above, and is
Yeah.
like, "Who the hell's that?"
What the fuck?
Like, yeah. And so he gets the spinner kind of back online, turns his drone on and tells it to watch the car, and he goes over to the orphanage, which is in
It's like this gnarly, kind of like Thunderdome looking thing.
yeah, totally. And he goes in, he sees Mr. Cotton, played by Lenny James from The Walking Dead, and he's basically got the kids disassembling electronics to pull the rare earth minerals out of them.
It's like a catalytic converter.
Yeah.
Because
this is how, like, in many third world countries, like especially in South Asia, these sort of kids who go through junkyards and pull the cadmium and stuff out of thrown away electronics. This is a real thing happening in 2022, not 2049.
Yeah, he's just a total slave master.
Oh yeah.
It's pretty chilling, honestly.
And because Kay comes in to ask him about a kid, and he thinks he's there to buy a kid.
He instantly goes into salesman.
Yeah, he blows a whistle and he has the kid stand up, and he's like, what kind of kid are you interested in? And it's like, oh, just the implications are dark.
See, he could have bought one of them. He didn't have to have Joy. He could have had
He could have bought a
real
kid.
companion.
People would have an issue with him coming home with a human child. He's like, I bought him fair and square in San Diego, the lawless zone of San Diego.
Now he lives in this nice apartment, not out in Thunderdome.
And now I can talk to a real kid. Yeah. And it's once Cotton figures out that he's a cop, he gets real tight-lipped and doesn't want to talk. And Kay just bashes him in the nose. And he's like, I think you have really detailed records.
Yeah.
And so it took one punch to get him to take him back to the file room.
Yeah, I mean, Kay is very persuasive when it comes. He's just brutal.
He's very mild mannered, but like everyone knows, a Nexus 9 replicant's a force to be reckoned with, right?
Yeah.
Like it's not anything to trifle with. And he goes back there and he gets out the record book, and the pages,
they're just totally torn out.
They're totally torn out, and he freaks
for the whole year.
He's like, I didn't do this. It wasn't me. This is before me. Like, and he freaks out and he runs off. And Kay, he just keeps getting distracted since he's been in here.
Yeah, he's like going into like memory fog mode. He's like wandering around, and he goes.
And we watch him go through the things we saw from the childhood memory, all the way down to the furnace. And he stands there for a second in front of the furnace, and we talk about letting a moment linger for a second.
Yeah,
he doesn't just immediately open it. Like, he stands there and has a think about, what does it mean if I open this and the horse is in there?
Yes.
And he opens it and the horse is in there. So that's a real memory.
Yeah, and I like how when he is walking down and all this, it's just, I mean, there's a soundscape, there's sound design going on, but there's no dialogue, there's no chatter. They just let the scenes breathe.
Yeah.
And it feels heavy as a result.
Yeah, it builds tension. And so to talk a little bit, so Roger Deakins designs the lighting for this whole movie.
Yeah.
Whereas Ridley Scott's Blade Runner is all noir all the time.
Yeah.
Deakins, most of the time, is a realistic lighting guy, right? Like, most things, especially outdoors and in like brightly lit places, are not shadowy at all. So when we go into a heavy shadow environment, it means something, right? Like it's we're going down into the belly of the beast as he goes down there, like,
yeah.
And it feels heavier because he doesn't always use that dark lighting.
I mean, it really reminds me of Dune lighting. I don't know if
it's not the same guy.
It's just similar though.
Yeah.
And so Joy, his AI girlfriend, is basically telling him, like, okay, because replicant memories are artificial, but you found this evidence, that means you were born. You weren't created. So you're Rachel's child.
You're Rachel's child. And she says, you should have a name. And she starts calling him Joe.
Joe.
Yeah.
And he's like, stop calling me that.
Yeah. And so he's like, he's still suspicious about it. And she says, well, you should go and talk to the expert on implanted memories. And so he goes to see Dr. Anna Staling, played by Carla Uri. And she's building a memory when he gets there.
Yeah, she's in like this lush jungle scene with this bug and a super high tech kind of camera thing.
Yeah.
And it kind of reveals to be like almost a holodeck.
Yeah, yeah. She's in like a dome, like a hologram dome, and then she has like a little device
girl.
that looks like
Pauly Shore.
The biodome.
Oh yeah,
yeah. And then like she sees Kay is there, and she shuts down the hologram. She goes over to talk to him, and she says she's in the dome because she has a compromised immune system. And when her parents left for the off-world colonies, and she couldn't come along because of her susceptibility to disease.
So why'd they leave? Really?
Yeah.
That seems fucked.
Well,
sorry, kid. We're going to leave you in a bubble.
It does seem fucked. I mean, we're going to spoil it right now. It's also not true.
Yeah, it's also a lie.
It's also a lie, yeah. But it's a plausible enough story because that's true to the... You have to be in sort of perfect health to go to the off-world colonies.
Sure.
So because you can't be going there to compromise the health of the population.
Sure.
So basically, her parents left her behind, but she could have her perfect little bubble world that's like her prison and her shelter at the same time.
I'd live in a holodeck. That'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, it'd get lonely, I think.
Yeah.
I don't know.
You could just import yourself a Joy.
You
A little AI girlfriend. I mean, it seems like Kay sported for all the expansion packs, including the tinfoil hat.
It's true. He did. So yeah,
get all the personality submodules,
and she's the person that makes artificial memories. She could just
she'd whip one up.
She can just entertain herself.
She's we learned she's a contractor for Wallace.
Yeah,
she's like a freelancer.
She doesn't work directly for him because she wants the freedom.
Yeah.
And so he wants to know how you can know if a memory is real. And while he's talking, she's working. She's building like a birthday party memory for a kid. And she has him come over and basically look in a viewfinder, and she has him think of the memory so she can look at it.
Yeah.
And he thinks about the childhood memory with the toy horse and everything.
Yeah.
And and you can see sort of the pain on his face, and she's getting emotional watching it. She's got a tear. She's rolling tears a little bit, and then she goes, "Someone lived this. This is a real memory."
Yeah.
And he freaks out for the first time. He he loses it. Like he screams and he smacks the chair, and he freaks out. And he goes outside, and the cops are waiting for him because he hasn't. Mm-hmm. He's off the reservation right now. He's freelancing.
And I wanted to point out that at this point, when he showed up to talk to the doctor, Stelline, it's no longer in the movie. It's no longer raining all the time. It's now snowing all the time.
Yeah.
And I definitely think that's intentional. We've moved past the first act, and we're this change of scenery is really striking when he goes outside, because it's this austere building, and there's the car, and it's got snow on it, and the ground is patched with snow and pavement.
Yeah.
And it's just inherently brighter than previous. And I don't know if I'm stretching here, but I kind of feel like it's brighter. Like his perceptions have heightened in general. His eyes are now open.
So since you bring this up, the moment when he finds the horse is dead middle in the runtime.
Okay.
It's the turning point of the movie, and it's the very center of it. So you're right. We're out of that, the first act, and we're in the middle of the second act essentially, or the second act's not as long.
No. The third act's really the longest act.
Yeah, I don't think he's in LA anymore when he goes to see her. I think he's up in the mountains or whatever, which is why they come looking for him, because
what the fuck are you doing?
You went to San Diego and now you're up in Aspen or whatever, you're all over the place. What are you doing? And they take him in for base. Oh, but I was going to say, it's going to the mountaintop to see the sage, right?
Yeah,
he's gone to the mountaintop.
Like in Skyrim when you go to the...
to get wisdom from the wise one up there on the mountain.
Yeah.
They bring him in for baseline, and he's way off baseline.
Yeah.
He can't keep up with the thing. He's getting more frantic. He's shook. He goes in to talk to Joshi, and she's like, "You're off the reservation. What are you even doing?" And he tells her what she wants to hear. He's like,
"I killed a child.
Yeah,
that's why I'm freaking out."
Yeah, basically, it's done. What you wanted me to do, I did it. And she's like, "Oh, good job." She's like, "Well, I'll help you get out of the building, but you have 48 hours, and if you don't have your shit together by your next baseline test, they're gonna kill you."
Yeah,
and that's his great reward for this thing that he's saying that he did, which he didn't do, but he definitely didn't want to kill this kid.
No.
And all the reward he would get is sort of like a 48-hour pardon.
Yeah, and he has to surrender his badge and his gun, and he leaves the station. Mm-hmm. And then he goes back to his apartment, and turns out Joy hires Marietta. And the sex worker replicant. I didn't realize she was a replicant at first, but I guess she is. And they kind of do like a meld, she's a surrogate.
Yeah, basically, because Joy, you can't touch her because she's a hologram, and so she overlays with Mariette, and they have a a weird sort of holographic threesome thing.
Yeah.
And it's a good scene. It's a little uncomfortable. It's a little
weird.
Yeah. It's like, yeah, it's right on the line between creepy and sexy. And it goes on both sides of it at different points.
So divers, if you're listening to this and you're thinking, what are you talking about? That was straight up sexy. You're the creep.
Yeah. You live on that side of the line.
And so Mariette puts a tracker in Kay's jacket pocket.
Yeah, she slides that in
at the end of it all. And then Joy's basically like, you can get the fuck out of here.
Yeah, because
we're done with your ass.
Joy's jealous of her. And it's really, Mariette said it's the hardest burn on Joy, where she's like, I've been inside you. There's not as much there as you think. And it's like, oh, like, it's true. Like, it's a true observation.
Yeah, listen here, chatbot.
Yeah, but ouch, like uncalled for.
Yeah.
But, Joy should have been a little more chill.
Yeah, she should have been a lot nicer. Like, thank her for her work, etc. I don't know.
Yeah. I really appreciate what you did and da-da-da-da. But instead, she decided to be jealous and a little shitty. And so she got a sick burn as a reward.
Yeah, so then Joy asks Kay to transfer her completely to the mobile emitter.
Yeah.
That way she's got no files left there at the home holographic projector or whatever.
Yeah.
So that if they come and raid his apartment, there'll be nothing there of her.
Yeah. And reluctantly he does this because this means there's no cloud backup.
Yeah.
When they break that antenna. And to her, like, he says that means, you could die, and she's like a real girl. Like, that means, like, it's a point of pride to her. Like, that sort of, like, you're not human unless you have something to lose.
Unless you can die.
Yeah.
And when he breaks the antenna, it instantly alerts Love.
Yeah, because she's tracking him all the time.
Yeah, she's been using this shit.
Yeah, because it's like...
She's like super stalker.
Well, he's got the whole Wallace home suite, right?
Oh, yeah.
So it's like...
I mean, he's a Wallace product.
Yeah. So she knows everything. And he shuts that off, and she's like, oh, that's not good. That's how I pay attention to him. That's how I always... He'll get killed by San Diego Raiders if I don't have Joy to track him with.
So then he heads down to the market, and he hands over the horse, the toy horse, to be analyzed by this dude,
Dr. Badger.
And Dr. Badger is the Somali pirate from that one movie.
Barkhad Abdi.
All of those memes.
Yeah,
I'm the captain.
Look at me, I'm the captain now. Yeah.
And basically, like, the only place that's that dirty with that much radioactivity and stuff is Vegas.
Yeah. So do you think the bomb, the blackout day bomb that went off actually went off over Vegas?
Maybe. I mean,
because that's like
it wouldn't have been
100 miles from Los Angeles. About like
it would have had to have been a not very dirty bomb if it was over Vegas.
Okay. Yeah.
I don't know.
I mean, because why is Vegas supposedly uninhabitable? When they get there, the radio...
it's just straight up desert, and in the future, even those coastal areas are desert.
Yeah, but it's something happened there that made it radioactive to why it was abandoned.
Yeah.
It's not lived in anymore. But he finds, when he's scanning it, he finds the radiation levels have gone to normal, which is probably high for us, but normal for them. And he sees a heat signature. And so he goes in.
And he's looking at all these crazy landmarks. And there's this, there's all these just gigantic statues of naked ladies. And it's just,
there's like some recognizable hotels, and there's a lot of future hotels too. And definitely things that I don't think are currently in Las Vegas.
Yeah, like he leaves his police cruiser parked outside of Vegas and just walks in.
Yeah. Kind of like walking up the strip. Like he's coming in at the one end of the strip, and he's just walking in. And
it's cool. It's a cool visual of him walking into the dust storm.
And it's another time where it's one of the kind of a long sequence in the movie where we're outside of realistic lighting, right? We're into expressionist lighting. Everything is orange in Vegas. It's like there's just a haze, sort of like in the West Coast these last few years, we've had really bad wildfires.
Yeah.
We've had days that looked like this.
Oh, for sure.
So
it's gnarly.
there's so much haze in the sky that all the light from the sun that's coming through is just filtered down as orange over everything.
Yeah.
And he walks up and there's a bunch of beehives. Like, just like, you know, like what you see, like a beekeeper's beehives, and everything is all animal life in the future basically is supposed to be dead.
Mostly dead, yeah.
Yeah. So this is remarkable to find these bees. And Kay, of course, he's a replicant he doesn't have like the same sort of human instinctual responses. Sticks his hand in the beehive. and it's like it's all covered in bees, and he's just kind of looking at it baffled.
Yeah. It seemed like an interesting, kind of a weird scene, but I think it kind of showed, it added to the bizarre nature of walking into Vegas.
Yeah, and there's some, as long as this movie there is things from the screenplay that are cut out. Yeah. And there's a lot more made of how Deckard is farming food and stuff in the screenplay, and the bees are just part of the operation. But the rest of it, like his hydroponic grow labs and everything, like it's cut. It's not necessary to the story. Yeah, the bees are the evocative image, and so that part stayed. But I was always like, there has to be flowers. If you have bees, you have to have flowers. Yeah. There are flowers. We just don't see the flowers. Yeah. So he goes into this.
Before that, it cuts over to Love going into Joshi's office.
Oh, right.
Because we kind of get cut from him as he's walking into the town, and then it seems like these two know each other. It seems like Love and Joshi have met for some reason.
I think Joshi saw the security camera footage of Love stealing the bones, because she says something about, she's like, basically, he already did it. He killed the kid, so all you have is the bones that you stole. And basically, like, even if you kill me, you're screwed, ladies. So
it's already over.
Whatever. And Love, like, totally Terminators her. Like he crushes her hand with the glass in it.
Yeah, that's pretty gnarly. And Love kind of sheds a tear, like, as she's doing this, because
she's also going off the reservation a little bit, because Joshi says something to her about how she can't lie, and she's like, I can't lie. I'm gonna tell Wallace that you tried to shoot me, and that's why I had to kill you. Yes. And so it's like she's also pushing her programming in the course of this mystery that they're trying to solve.
And the cool little stiletto that she pulls out and then kills Joshi with, that was a custom knife that they had made for that character, and they had him made in steel so that she could like open it and be sneak. And the prop guy was like, yeah, it's metal, it's real, because even though we could paint a plastic one or a 3D printed one up, it wouldn't read as metal. Even as a perfect paint job, it's not going to be perfect to your eye. So they use real metal, and then only when they have her shank her with the rubber prop do they switch it at the last second.
That's cool. And they also do when she stabs her, don't they cut to outside the window, so you don't hear the stab, you just see it. Yeah. And then you cut back inside when she gets on the computer to pull up Kay's location, and she just unceremoniously picks up Robin Wright's head and holds it up to the scanner, and then drops it, and her head hits the table so hard. And it's just like, in the theater, everyone goes, oh,
that's like ice cold.
Like there's certain hits. There's a lot of like blunt force trauma to heads in this movie. Yeah. And they all feel real, like when you see them. Anyways, back in Las Vegas, Kay goes into abandoned casino, and there's tripwires and stuff, and someone's obviously living in here, and he's just sort of creeping around, and Harrison Ford comes out of the shadow with a gun to the back of Kay's head. Yeah. And he says something. First Kay sees the dog.
Yeah, he sees the dog, and then so he's looking that way, and then it's a distraction, and then Harrison Ford Deckard comes out holding the gun.
And real animals, again, in this time period, really don't exist. So
Yeah.
seeing a dog is remarkable.
Yes.
And yeah, Deckard's behind him, and he says something like, it's a quote from Treasure Island, where he says, "You wouldn't happen to have a piece of cheese on you, would you, boy?" And Kay recognizes the quote, and he's like, "Oh, it can read." Like he's sort of halfway impressed that the Blade Runner reads books.
Yeah, but Deckard himself's a Blade Runner, so he
should know.
He shouldn't be so shitty.
Yeah, we're all readers. Yeah, and so they have like a little interchange, and Kay's like, "I'm not here to take you in. I'm just here to ask some questions."
Yeah.
And Deckard's not buying it. He thinks he's there to be retired. Rightly so. He hasn't stayed alive this long by not suspecting everyone that comes up to talk to him. And he goes to shoot him, and Kay does a header off the balcony to get away.
Yeah, he bails. They have kind of a running fight where Deckard is shooting at him, and then he turns the power on, and we have a holographic intermittent show with like Elvis. And,
yeah, "Suspicious Minds" is the song. That's got to be on purpose.
Yeah.
And it's Kay sets off some of the booby traps, but survives everything, and eventually they get into a fist fight.
Yeah,
and
Kay just lets him keep punching him because
Yeah.
I mean it's pretty clear Kay could destroy Deckard in a fist fight.
Oh yeah, this
But
old man doesn't have a chance.
He just lets him punch him until he literally is like punched himself out.
Yeah, and it's like he says, "I'm trying not to hurt you, but you're making it really hard," or something like that. And they stop because it switches from "Suspicious Minds" to "I Can't Help Falling in Love with You," and Deckard's like, "I like this song," and then he's like, "We could keep doing this, or how about we get a drink?" And he's like, "I'll take the drink." And Harrison Ford really socked the shit out of Ryan Gosling when they're filming this scene.
Did he?
Yeah, so it's like some of those punches, like where there's good spit particles and stuff that come off, those ones connected.
Oh man.
And Indiana Jones can still throw a pretty good punch.
Yeah.
I think they look like they'd hurt. So they go to the bar, and Deckard's like, "I hope you like whiskey. We've got millions of bottles of whiskey."
Yeah, I thought that was hilarious. And then he pours some out for the dog, and the dog starts drinking it. So
Don't give whiskey to your dogs. It's cute in a movie, but don't do it.
yeah. So would you want a replicant dog? Seems like it'd be pretty awesome.
I think it would be pretty awesome. The dogs don't know that they're replicants.
Yeah,
because
she's gonna have perfect health.
Because some not always know. Because in the books, in Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep, the electric animal repair guy is a thing, right? Because that's what.
Oh yeah, that's true.
That's what. What's his name from the movie
from Blade Runner?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what he does, is repair electric animals.
Yeah.
So they break down and stuff. Like,
so I guess maybe it wouldn't be perfect.
it wouldn't be perfect, but semi-eternal
Be
as long as
pretty cool, yeah.
as long as you do the maintenance. Yeah, mostly I think it's probably a good thing, and you can feed them whiskey apparently.
Yeah, if you do anything at all.
And they do fine on it. Which actually Kay asks him, he's like, "Is it real?" He says, "I don't know.
Ask him.
Why don't you ask him?" Yeah. He's like, "You got a name?" And he gives him his serial name. He's like, "That's not a name, it's a serial number." And so this is the first time he calls himself Joe.
Yeah. I thought that was cool.
Yeah, he's becoming a real boy, like we said. And he's you got to remember, he's thinking that this is his dad.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
basically.
This whole time he's like, "This is Dad."
He's coming here and he's like, "This guy, I am his loin fruit. I do the same job that he did. He abandoned me. Like, I need answers." Like, he's out here, and like, you can't quite tell if Deckard's quite living up to what he wants him to be or not, because he does seem impressed with this old man, like,
Yeah.
and how he's living, and he presses him to explain, like, why did you leave your family? You've never seen your kid, you left Rachel, who you loved, and he's like, "Because that was the plan. We were being hunted. I didn't want our child to die."
Yeah, and basically he wanted to not know where she was at so that if he got caught, they couldn't wring the information from him.
Yeah. And he explained to the other replicants how to tamper with the birth records. So the whole microfiche thing,
that's why there was both a male and a female of the same thing, because he was leaving confusion in the wake.
Yeah. And so like they kind of have a break, right? Like Kay goes and catches a nap, and like they sort of like take a moment to think about all of this stuff, which is when
bad guys arrive.
They realize that someone has tracked him here, basically.
Yeah.
And so they make a run for Deckard's spinner. He's still got the one from the original movie.
Yeah, it's pretty rad looking.
And he shuts the door behind him, and Kay just busts through the wall.
I love the full Kool-Aid man.
Yeah, you can't. He's a force to be reckoned with. You can't just shut him out. Yeah. And they blow up the spinner before they can get to it.
Yeah, hits it right with some missiles, and then the other car just flies in and parks in the room.
Real slick too. And that was a real good parking job.
And these dudes with respirators get out, and then Love shows up to kick Kay's ass after he took out the thugs. And they kidnap Deckard. She stomps on Joy's emitter, and they leave Kay to die.
Yeah. So, and Joy dies pleading for Kay's life.
And then she says she loves him.
Yeah.
That's her last words.
Yeah.
It's pretty good chatbot programming.
What it makes me think of is like the companions in like Fallout and thing like that, like you build a pretty decent relationship with some of those like NPCs and
Red Dead your horses.
Fuck that horse, man. Yeah, no, that's true. Samwise my horse is even more than my wife in Fallout. Samwise my horse for Red Dead still hurts. But yeah. So yeah, I would tear for Joy, because even though she's just an AI, she really was a ride or die for him.
Yeah, for sure. Sign me up.
Oof. And so
they use basically like the freedom. We cut to the replicant freedom movement.
Yeah, they come
like show up using Mariette's tracker, the sex worker who planted it in his pocket, and you probably forgot about that from an hour ago.
Or you were confused about who she was working for and thought maybe she was working for Love.
No, she's a freedom fighter, and they show up to rescue Kay. He comes to consciousness near a campfire. He's all twitchy and fucked up, and so he kind of goes back to sleep again.
Yeah. So everyone always wonders what happens with the dog. The dog also gets rescued. It's a deleted scene that the dog is there with them later. So the interview with Villeneuve I was watching earlier, they asked him about it, and he's like, my take is the dog lives. Actually, there is a scene where you see the dog around, but it was cut for time. And so
I looked up what kind of dog that was. It's like some sort of Eastern European mountain dog, like they're really
like
cool.
A Caucasian Shepherd or something.
Kind of, yeah. It wasn't that. It was like a really obscure kind of dog, but that's pretty, whatever. I'm not going to get one.
Seems like a good dog.
Yeah.
And he said the dog was a really good actor because he wanted a dog that seemed like it was an old machine.
Yeah.
And so it moved slow and didn't bark. And
that's perfect.
The dog delivered. Yeah. So basically he wakes up, Mariette, kind of explains what is going on, that he's with this replicant freedom movement, and introduces him to the leader, Freyja, played by Hayam Abbas. And she says she was there when Rachel died in childbirth, and, basically how much that meant to her and Sapper and the people were involved. That meant that, they could produce life. And, that they were something more than slaves. It was something miraculous. And as she goes on to, explain their movement and the blackout and why they did that and everything, she just sort of mentions, I was there. I held the child and I saw her, and like it kind of comes out.
He's like, her,
yeah, and it's like, that the child was a girl. and she realizes he has that memory
implanted.
Yeah, and so he's like, you thought it was you thought you were the baby, and he's like, he's his world's kind of falling apart on him.
I kind of love this moment because
it hurts, man.
It takes the golden child trope, like I'm the chosen one, blah blah blah,
the special boy.
It's special boy, and it just turns it inside out and tosses it in the garbage. It's just like, you're not the special boy. You are just another fucking machine.
Yeah, but well, she says everyone here.
Everyone thought we were,
and everyone wishes they were that child.
Yeah.
And also to die she gives him that idea that to die for the righteous cause is the most human thing you can do.
That's a pretty radical way of thinking.
Yeah, but it's about freedom of choice, right? Like right now, or up until now, he hasn't had any choice in what he was doing with his life. So
That's
choosing
true.
what you die for is the ultimate freedom in that way. I mean, choosing what you live for is probably a better one.
I was going to say, I'm pretty sure Gandhi has a lot of other things to say. Like, and there's other people
that have different ideas about that.
About, what freedom looks like and absolutely controlling yourself, as opposed to, just dying in violent conflict because you chose to. That's definitely the ultimate freedom. How American of you.
Yeah. I guess that's true. I didn't say it's my ideology. It's the ideology.
It's Frasier. She's a radical.
She is a radical. And it's just that understanding, not all of them are going to make it to get what their goal is.
Sure.
It's not like you want to die for the cause, but you're willing to die for the cause. Anyways, Kay, he thinks back on all of this stuff, and that's when he realizes that Dr. Anna is the girl.
Yeah.
She made it's her memory, and she implants it in them. She's Rachel and Deckard's daughter.
Yeah, and Frasier tells Kay that he needs to kill Deckard for all the replicants' greater good.
Yeah.
How do they know the magic was in Rachel and not in Deckard? Did they test it out? Did they have him fuck a bunch of replicants to see if they had babies?
I don't think so.
If they haven't, I mean, why kill Deckard at this point?
Oh, just because of what he can reveal, I think. It's not...
She can reveal the same. Did she kill herself?
She's still fighting for the cause. Deckard's captured.
This is some sus logic.
It is. He's... they're radicals, man. They're terrorists.
I think Frasier is a toxic influence.
Well, let's see where this goes. And so Kay goes back to Los Angeles, and he gets the next kind of gut punch as he's kind of going to get a gun and everything, is he gets hit up by the giant ad for Joy. And so we get the nude, black-eyed...
pink skin, blue hair.
Yeah, the full-on sex bot version of Joy. And she starts giving him the sales pitch about, wanting the companion. And she says, "You look like a real good Joe." And he has that realization that the only relationship that he's had in his whole life wasn't even really real, because she's just a programmed AI that told him what he wanted to hear.
Everybody Joe.
Yeah.
All of the Johns are Joes.
All the Johns are Joes.
And that's a better name
and he's
for
like,
the episode.
All of the Johns are Joes. That is funnier. And he's standing there in the rain, and he's beat up. He's got the head wound. His green jacket is basically black with filth. His blonde hair is black with blood and filth.
Yeah, he's gnarly.
And he's standing in the rain, and the blood's running down. And it's like... and he's totally broken, right?
Hashtag freedom.
Yeah, at this point. He's gone too far. He's gone to the not.
He is too free at this point.
In the nothing. Freedom's just another word for nothing left to lose.
Fully free.
He's lost his job, his chatbot, his idea that he was the Harry Potter of the story.
Oh man, that's the worst thing to lose, is that he is a golden boy.
Yeah.
It's like, you mean I'm not special?
It's not special. But what he can do, though, is at least still save the day. But
he still has a life to throw away.
He still has a life to throw away. So we cut over to Wallace, who is putting the question to Deckard.
Yes.
And Wallace is doing some grade A headfuckery on Deckard because he says, he basically comes at Deckard with the, didn't you ever think maybe you were programmed to fall in love with her or designed to fall in love with her?
Yeah.
And Deckard's like, almost at that, like, is this guy about to tell me that I'm a replicant? And then Wallace kind of goes back, that is if you were designed at all. And like, it is like, and so he like blue balls him on the reveal. Like, he's like, I know if you were designed, but it's more fun for me if you don't know.
Yeah, I prefer it this way.
And he basically, in exchange for the information, he produces a new Rachel. And we get a really great de-aged Sean Young come in as Rachel, and she's wearing the outfit from the first movie, and she walks up and she talks to Deckard, and he looks shook, and then he just offhandedly goes, her eyes were green, and turns and walks off, and Love shoots her in the head, and he winces, like, and it's like, good. Harrison Ford doesn't always do good acting. Like, he does a lot of movie star, like playing Harrison Ford and kind of overdoing it. He does some really good acting.
Yeah, it was pretty good. I was interested in how they accomplished having the Rachel clone. And they had her in there with dots on her face and actually do the scene, and then they just in post CGI'd the face in. Yeah,
they shot it with a young actor in costume that was the same dimensions basically as Sean Young. Then that's who everyone's acting against. With Sean Young, they're directing with Denis Villeneuve, and then they mocap Sean Young and combined the performances.
And combined it in. I think that's pretty cool how they sorted that out.
It is, and that's usually like that's the way they kind of do it in Marvel movies and stuff.
Is that how they did? That's probably how they did Mark Hamill when he came back as Luke Skywalker.
Yeah. Totally. They do. They shoot it. They shoot it with the young actor. They shoot it with the old actor, and
match it up.
And they match it up where the old actor isn't used as much as it's informing the digital artist.
Sure.
Because as you get older, most people kind of spread out and get thicker and stuff. Not Harrison Ford though. Like.
I mean, he doesn't look like early on Han Solo.
He doesn't,
looks
but
a lot bigger.
But he's still skinny because if you watch. You have to watch the trailer for the new Indiana Jones because de-aging Harrison Ford looks easier than de-aging some people.
Sure.
Just because he didn't get chubby.
He keeps working out.
Yeah. So anyways, they've got superior ways of torture that they can do off-world. So they're gonna take his ass to Mars and really put him under the screws.
I wonder why Mars. Like, why can't they just do it there in the pyramid?
Because there's laws, man. And
who cares about laws? Wallace cares about laws.
We live in a world built on a wall. Yeah, for whatever reason, they need to take him off world to really torture the information out of him. So they're flying to LAX to get Deckard off world. And this is another clue for Deckard being a replicant because he asks Love where they're going, and she says that we're going home.
Yes.
And so it's like kind of like we're both out of the same factory. Potentially it means something like that.
Yeah.
This is when Kay flies in like Han Solo and starts blasting cars. Like he shoots down the two support spinners that are accompanying them, and then basically makes them crash the limo that they're in.
Yeah, I really like the lighting and the sound design in this. It made it feel like it made the crash down feel real with the surf of the ocean and the sound and everything. It's awesome.
And that's another thing. One of my big takeaways from the theatrical experience was the sound design of this movie. It is so immersive and at times really uncomfortable with the loud, like the Hans Zimmer score. Hans Zimmer is not a very like musical composer. He's like he describes it as being right up to the edge of sound design himself. Like he's using tones to elicit feelings more than he's composing songs.
Of course. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And so they crash. They're sort of like up against that seawall that you were talking about earlier because they were coming in too low, probably trying to fly below radar.
Something like that.
And the car is sort of slowly sliding into the sea with Deckard handcuffed inside. And
Love and Kay are having a fight on the beach.
Yeah. And they have a pretty brutal fight. And she kicks his ass.
Yeah, I mean, she's whipping his ass, and it's an awesome scene because Deckard is just gonna die.
He's gonna slowly drown.
Kay can't figure this shit out because he's cuffed in there, and it's just a really gnarly scene. And then so it looks like Love wins, and so she goes back to the car.
She kisses him
before
she walks away, which is funny. And then she says, I was the best one. This whole thing was just to get the cookie of being the best replicant to her.
And I like how when she goes into the car and she's going for Deckard, Kay comes up like a shark from under her. It's totally Jaws.
He does, coming from under the water. And then puts her under the water.
Yeah, and he just holds her, and she's the thing I love about this part, because drowning is brutal, but the sound, you hear her screaming through the water. It's it's just amazing acting, and the sound design is just so crazy.
It's very visceral, uncomfortable.
Yes.
Because he's sort of dead-eyed, holding her under the water with one hand on the ceiling,
pushing her down
of the car, and holding her down just until she goes limp. And Deckard is watching the whole thing kind of like he's watching two Terminators fight, and
he kind of is.
And he's like, whoa, what's even happening? He just looks totally freaked out by the whole thing. And then, she goes limp. He breaks Deckard's restraints off. They get him out and they go to the spinner. And Deckard says, you should have let me die. And he's like, you did die. You did die. You died in that car crash. He's like, now you can go see your daughter.
Yeah, and he takes her to the office, and he's like, are you okay? And he's like, yeah. And he lays down on the steps.
And he goes,
basically dies.
Yeah, because Deckard's like, why did you do this? Who am I to you? And he goes, just go see your daughter. And he sits down there, and we don't actually see the reunion of Deckard and his daughter, or not even the reunion. It's literally the first time he meets her.
Yeah.
So we don't see any of that. We just sit there with Kay. Vangelis's Tears in the Rain from the original Blade Runner starts playing because time to die, basically.
Yeah.
Kay just sits down there and bleeds out because he's stabbed all the shit.
Oh yeah, he got fucked up.
Yeah, Love stabbed him a lot.
Yeah.
And he just dies a free man out there on the steps. And roll credits. There's no postscript, no mid-credit stinger. We don't know what happened. But Kay's journey is complete. This was Kay's story.
Yeah,
and we saw it all the way to the end.
I really liked that, how it just kind of, he just dies in the snow. It's really striking.
It is. It's just, I mean, it's like Rutger Hauer's Roy Batty's death in the original. It's like, it's sad. It's sad when they die because he is fully human. Like he's living. He sacrificed himself, like by the standards that they set, to die for the righteous cause is the most human thing you could do.
And the thing is he did die for a righteous cause, not the terrorist,
not the
rebel, but the actual righteous cause of reuniting those two.
Or I would say like
and saving Deckard.
He died for his. I think believing in the cause is the most important thing of it being righteous, right? Like that it's truly what your heart believes is the right thing. Yeah. He didn't do it because you need to eliminate this guy because he knows too much. He wanted that happy ending of the child from his memory being reunited with their father whether it was him or not, that was still the righteous cause.
Yeah, that was the right thing to do.
So I guess we just get into this.
Yeah.
What worked for you? Everything.
Yeah. Roger Deakins' cinematography, he was the top tier. I tried to measure all of what I liked and figure out what I liked the most. And so the visual storytelling was stunning. I loved how they would let scenes breathe, and they would demonstrate things, and they would add nuance with these really like stirring just decisions with camera work and whatnot. I think the overall setting and style looks amazing, how they advanced it from the first Blade Runner. And it's everything is a little more brutal, a little more dark, a little more kind of dystopian. And it's a little less punk, but a lot more just doom.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Just more grim.
Yeah. And so I really like that. I think the casting was superb. We called that out already. I think every single role was amazing, even Jared Leto. And if you don't agree, you're wrong. I think that like Ryan Gosling was the right guy to play this role. He did so well. I just couldn't even think of a weak link. I was trying to think of one, and I couldn't really think of one.
Yeah.
And just the writing, the screenplay was so well done. How they subverted the chosen one trope.
Yeah.
That was awesome. Like in my first watching of the movie, I was like, "Oh, he's Rachel's son." Blah blah blah. Like I was on it with him.
Yeah.
And then when
you want it for him.
Yeah. And then when you learn that he's not, you're like, "What? I'm gutted." And it was just, I love that. So
let's, Hampton Fancher wrote the screenplay, the original screenplay, and that he's the writer of the original Blade Runner.
Okay.
And then Michael Green came in and did another, like a brush
treatment.
up. Yeah.
Oh man, that guy can write.
Yep. No, I'm with you.
So those are the tops for me. I guess I would say cinematography, setting, casting, and story.
Okay. So, ditto everything on Deakins. I wrote a whole long thing about Deakins, so we don't need to rehash that. The score by Benjamin Wallfisch and Hans Zimmer.
Very good.
That was really, of my initial viewing, the score was the thing that I kind of walked out of there. Like I walked out of there hearing that, like
just rattles you.
Yeah, and like I wasn't always like a Hans Zimmer devotee, but over the course of this podcast, I've spent a lot of time with a bunch of his scores. And like when I listen to Hans Zimmer scores, I see the movies in my mind. Like they're so evocative, and like they take me to the places that, like the scenes from, I see my favorite scenes from those movies. And they also very elegantly drop in Vangelis's score, like motifs from Vangelis's score, when it's time to evoke moments from the original Blade Runner.
Yeah.
The main one being Tears in the Rain playing at the end as Kay dies. And it's like you hear that music when those first notes of Tears in the Rain start playing, you're like, "Oh, he's going to die." Like, cuz that's what that song means. That's like, it's a death song. And music has that power to, it's like it lets you time travel, like it takes you to those places. To piggyback a little on what you said, Ryan Gosling and Ana de Armas give really exceptional performances. So does Harrison Ford, Dave Bautista, Robin Wright, and everyone involved gives an exceptional performance. Those are just the ones I just had to call out. And then Dennis Gassner's production design. You sort of alluded to that, but I just wanted to call him out because like that, the attention to detail and the models and everything make the world feel real. This feels like a real place you could walk into. The harder question then is, what didn't work for you?
So I was really thinking about this, and I do think it was a bit long. I don't feel like there was anything that needed to be cut. There were no dead scenes, and there weren't things that were wasteful. But I think this could have been 2 2-hour movies instead of one 3-hour movie.
Yeah.
I would have liked it just as much. And I think that's what I would have done.
Split it.
I would have split it up. I don't know where I'd let Denny figure out how to do that, but he could, just like with Dune. And I think that's what I would have done. This was a bit much for one movie. It was overly ambitious. It was super long. And not that I didn't love every minute of it. It's just, it was a lot.
Yeah.
It's just like a big spoonful of awesome. So it's just, I would have cut it. I would have cut it and made it 2.
Okay.
What about you?
That's your only one?
That's it.
So Ridley Scott himself said that the movie could have 20 minutes cut out of it. And I think that probably for the theatrical cut, they should have done that.
Okay.
I think this should be about 20 minutes shorter theatrical, and then the home video, we get this extra sumptuous 2 and 40 minutes version of it, and then it becomes like the Lord of the Rings movies, right? Where everyone prefers the special editions.
Sure.
But for the theater, we had the more palatable size.
Okay.
I think my other criticism would be for a movie that's very interested in women's issues and racial issues, and especially how marginalized people are exploited by capitalist systems. It is not interested in their point of view at all. There's no POV female characters at all. Like every female in this story is basically there to serve a man.
Yeah.
And so that, especially because it's all about women's bodies and fertility and like all of these things, but not from a woman's point of view in the slightest. So that, I think that could be a little bit better. And then this is not a fair criticism at all, but I think the 1-2 punch of Kay not being the chosen one and then him dying at the end was hard for audiences to deal with. I think that's what left a lot of people feeling like bad when they left this movie, where they're like, and he dies? So this is not a criticism.
Those people don't listen to doom metal because sad is good.
Yeah. I actually think that that's a strength of the movie, that it subverts the trope and the hero dies heroically. I think that is like good and brave storytelling, but I think that was a hard pill for a lot of people to swallow.
I can see that for sure.
All right, well, let's take a break and then we'll come back and have our final segment.
Don't we normally give a final thoughts on the rating?
Shit.
Well, let's go ahead and do that.
Yeah, let's do that. Let's do the final thoughts and ratings.
So, I mean, this is a toughie.
I was trying to, in the interest of brevity.
In the interest of brevity, let's not rate the final Cyberpunk movie.
Yeah, sorry about that.
So I was vacillating on this one between 4 and 5. But just upon reflection and all of that, I'm just going to stick with my initial gut instinct and give it a 5.
I agree. It's a 5-star film.
I just can't think of anything wrong with it that is enough to cost it a star. It's like being long and being difficult topics and whatnot it's just like that's hard cinema. Sometimes the easy the pop culture stuff isn't exactly what you want, and for like a real thinker, like it's not for everyone, but it is for me. So I'm sticking with a 5.
I absolutely agree that it's a 5. I did sort of like think about it's just not, it's better than a 4, and maybe
when I look at the other 4.4 star movies, it's much better.
The thing is, I've spent, since the time I watched it, I think on Thursday, I've thought about it every day since Thursday. You know what I mean? Like, I've continued thinking about it. I've continued pulling out little pieces of the performance and playing them back in my head. And to me, those are the things that make something a 5-star movie. Like, sometimes a movie can be a 4-star movie and then you never think about it again. But it was just a good popcorn movie. It was good at
the moment, yeah.
But a 5-star movie, you're stewing on it days later, and
like,
that's what kind of movie this is.
My mind is a game mind. Everything's a game. I've been debating. I watched reviews of the Blade Runner RPG, and I watched reviews of other setting agnostic cyberpunk RPGs, and I was actually debating the value of writing my own so that I could do this better than I think the designers do. I mean, that's a conceit, right? But I think that much that it's absorbed my brain waves, like it's stolen my thought space,
exactly,
and it's hard to get out of
so
my
ultimately head. Anything that's making me do that, like when I'm really ruminating on a movie like this, that's what makes it a 5-star. That's that extra sauce that makes a 5-star movie, is that it's hitting on all those levels. Like,
I need that Blade Runner 2099.
That show?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, totally. I'm totally looking forward to that. Yeah. So like, just Guillermo del Toro says that humans exist in the real world and in the symbolic world, right? Mm-hmm. And so like really good films hit on every level, right? Sure. Like they're visually stunning. The writing is also good. The music is also good. The symbolic level of the movie is good. And this is one of those movies.
Yeah, it hits on every level for sure. All right, now let's go ahead and take a break.
Now we can do it.
Come back and do our closing segment.
Welcome back, divers. It's time for that final segment, the one where I ask Dave, what are you into right now?
I'm going to just say not much.
Okay.
So I'm going to tell the viewers, the divers what I've been.
Some of them are viewing on YouTube.
Yeah, that's
They're
true.
looking at that blank
Actually,
screen.
We've got a lot more hits on YouTube than recently. I streamed a few things and I finished an audiobook. So I finished watching Wednesday. I don't know if we talked about this before.
It's on Netflix. Yeah, I watched it too.
The coming of age supernatural dark comedy about Wednesday Addams from the Addams Family. I really liked it. I thought it was cool. Okay. It was smart. It was funny. And I like Wednesday Addams. I like the Addams Family. I like that Christina Ricci was in there, and she's a baddie.
Spoiler! Oh,
sorry.
What if I hadn't watched the whole season?
But this is a spoiler-filled podcast. We say that,
but not in
Inception.
our What Are You Into right now?
Okay, so I liked that, and I finished it. I started another show after that. I'm only like 2 episodes in, which is The Peripheral on Amazon.
Okay,
this is based on William Gibson's material.
Oh, is that with Florence Pugh?
I can't remember who's in it, but basically it's just like a near future. It's not super far future, but it's cyberpunkish where they have like they do these things where they put like the Trode headset on and they're playing like video games, and it's about this lady who's super good at it, and it's just pretty cool. Like I said, I'm only a little bit into it. I like how techie it is and how old crappy problems still happen, like it's not so far future that everything from the modern day is unrecognizable. It's
not Florence Pugh, it's Chloe Grace Moretz.
I mean, yeah, she's really good.
I love her. Remember, she's Hit Girl from Kick-Ass.
Yeah, she's awesome. I finished an audiobook in the meantime since I finished the last audiobook, and I'm not like you where I can listen to them at work. So this is
that's a lot of work.
Yeah. I finished Shadowrun Legends.
Okay. That's why you were talking about Shadowrun when I got here.
The first book in the one, Shadowrun has 1 million novels, but on Audible they have the Shadowrun Legends series, and it's pretty good. I'm not going to call it a 5-star novel, but it was enjoyable, especially if you're a fan of the genre. It follows a character who goes from a corpo all the way to a Shadowrunner by the end of it. And so
we should explain what Shadowrun is. A role-playing game.
It's a cyberpunk role-playing game.
It's a cyberpunk role-playing game with the twist being it's also a high magic world where there's like there's a big magical awakening and trolls and dwarves and dragons and all this stuff come back to life after a long dormant period.
So imagine you're at the end of a super high-tech phase of the world's development, and then it begins a new magical phase anew, and so you're at this confluence of magic and tech, and so it's kind of like what if someone what if D&D and Cyberpunk had a baby. And so that's what Shadowrun is, and it's a good novel. It's fun, and I would recommend it to anyone who likes Shadowrun and has forgotten how much they like it.
Okay. I had the source book and everything, but I've never actually played that game.
Holy shit, we gotta play it, dude. I like Shadowrun.
Yeah, I love the world, but I just never.
I could see you playing an orc.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's one of those mashups where it feels very tailored to my interests.
He's got like a cyber arm and a machine gun.
Yeah. Or like there's like Sasquatch shaman and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
It's a very Pacific Northwest heavy game.
It's based in Seattle.
Yeah, so it's just it always seemed like such a cool setting. Cool. That also sounds good. Did you make any progress on the Harry Potter thing?
I started that too because it's podcasts, episodic, and so I can watch them at bite size, like on my lunch at work and stuff. And so I'm like 6 episodes in or something,
and it's long, so it's going to be a long time.
Long. Okay, so I'm not.
I don't expect to report back till you're further into that. Okay,
I call it okay so far.
Okay, that's not surprising.
Yeah.
That's about what I expect.
How about you? What are you into right now?
I've talked about this show before, but I just recently kind of binged through season 4 of Gretsuko, which came out all the way back on December 16th of 2021. So cool thing about waiting so long to watch something is the new season comes out in February. So
dope.
I won't have a very long gap, but who knows? Maybe I'll wait almost a year before watching that one too.
Yeah.
So I've talked about before, it's a workplace comedy anime about Red Panda named Retsuko, and she works in the accounting department at a big corporation, and then she blows off steam by singing death metal. And
that's cool.
Yeah.
So it's death metal.
It's a fun show. It's like 15-minute episodes. They're very bite-sized. Rarecho is the writer and director that developed this. This season has been much more focused on her love interest Haida, who's played by Shingo Kato, the Japanese voice, and Ben Diskin in the English voice. And he's a spotted hyena that plays bass in a punk band in his downtime. And it really deals with pretty heavy like social issues and generational issues in the workplace in Japan, which their generations are not exactly the same as ours, but it very much is in that sort of baby boomer millennial in the workplace tension thing is what's going on. But it's just because the Japanese society there's sort of different social norms than we have, and so things are a little different than they would be here. And I thought it was just like a pretty smart season of this show, which all the seasons have been about something. It's not just frivolous like Sanrio characters. Like it's always kind of about Japanese society too, in amongst the kawaii of it. And sometimes I like a show with 15-minute episodes so that I can I'll watch 3 of these and go to bed and just jam through the 10-episode season real quick like that. And so season 5, like I said, is coming out in February, and that's going to be the final season, and it's going to be about Retsuko running for office in Japan's parliament. So they're just kind of continuing down the line of Japanese social commentary, which I find that fascinating.
That's cool. Sounds awesome.
Cool. Call to action.
Subscribe to us on your favorite podcatcher, as well as YouTube, Spotify, and Audible. Don't forget to leave us a review. A 5-star review costs you nothing, but means everything to us.
New episodes of Nick and Dave Deep Dive the Metaverse drop the 1st and 15th of every month, and you can find us on all social media platforms across the Metaverse as at Deep Dive the Meta. We're on, what are the new ones? Mastodon.
Centaur. Griffin.
all the mythological animals. No, it was Mastodon, Hive, and Vero are our new platforms that we're pushing on.
Well, I guess this is really goodbye.
Don't say goodbye. Say good journey.